Good afternoon, all my VC WrestlePod fans out there, and welcome to what seems like forever another episode of Dual Dynasty, your WWE review show here at BC WrestlePod. And we got a full house today. Of course, I am Mikey, El Jefe of BC WrestlePod, and joining me this afternoon to cover Raw and SmackDown, of course, is Minnie, who happened to also, be there live for the SmackDown. So we're going to get his takes in a little bit. We have the connoisseur of baldness himself, the Pleat Father, who also watches NXT and who will be at the post Halloween Havoc NXT this upcoming Tuesday.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. And
Hopefully.
then, yes. So we get to talk about all that gloriousness. And if not, Wednesday, we get to talk about Halloween Havoc, where NXT has kind of done a reset. We got lots of new champs out of Saturday, which I'm excited for. And we'll talk about that more on Wednesday. But then, of course, special guesting this episode for a little bit is our good friend Nick, who it feels like it's been forever since we've had an actual conversation. So I'm happy that you could take some time to be here with us this afternoon. I've missed your face.
I've missed you all. Pleasure as always, Mikey. Thank you as always for keeping the door never forbidden and always open. Always a pleasure chatting with you guys.
100%. Hey, that's our open door policy. It's just like, people just come in and out, but you know what? It's never going to close because we love you all. So we're going to be covering Raw and SmackDown as we always do here. But really quickly, before we get into all to get through the intro spiel, if you like what we do here at BC WrestlePod and you want to stay up to date on everything, there are a couple ways you can go ahead and do that. You can subscribe to our YouTube or follow us on Twitch and Kick. If you are looking for something a little, less grand and more self-contained, you can follow us on the social medias at BC WrestlePod, where we do a lot of fun stuff like report cards and all the good things, as well as weekly previews as what's going on for the week. And, you can see preview of the cards for an episode of what we cover here. And then we also have some merchandise as well at bcwrestlepodshop.fourthwall.com. Link in the description below. And ever so often, you will see our little buddy, the coffee bot, to be popping in if you want to donate to help us pay for these pay-per-views out here. Because I love AEW, but I got to be paying pay-per-views all the time. And it's okay. Especially for the one coming up for Full Gear, because we're doing a watch-along and we need multiple copies so everyone can do it. But without further ado, let's get into it. So we are going to start off a little bit differently. Instead of going in order with Raw and SmackDown, we're going to get SmackDown this afternoon. And the reason being is because Minnie over here, I don't know how he has the friends he does, but he always gets to go to these wrestling events without having to pay for a ticket and always ends up getting really good seats. So, Minnie, you were at this edition of SmackDown, which, of course, came from us in Arizona. So before we break down the three main topics that we're going to talk about, why don't you give us your perspective? How was SmackDown? What were some of the things that you enjoyed, and what kind of shenanigans did you get up to?
Sorry, I was petting my dog. I was helping our viewership by showing a cute puppy. So, yeah, I got some cool people in my life, apparently. They apparently enjoy taking me to wrestling events, which is fine because I'm a menace when I go. Also, initially, we didn't have 4 seats to go to SmackDown, but we went like 2 days, a day and a half before the event. And we went back on Ticketmaster, and we found a lot of seats that were still open. They're actually cheaper than the initial tickets that we bought on the floor. So we were able to exchange them and get 4 seats. Is what they were able to do. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. This is my first. I've been to PLEs before. This is my first taping of a show that I went to. So I got to hear all the promos, and you get to actually watch the show like they're playing on the top, so you can see all the backstage stuff that goes on. And then there was a dark match beforehand. It was La Garza versus the Street Profits, so that was really cool to see that. Then yeah, my little name card here, Solo's a bad Marvel villain. There's a story behind that. You can't really see it too much in the taping. Because of course he'll get in trouble, but I yelled this out to him during the MFT match, and he flipped me off. I was yelling a bunch of random things at the wrestlers tonight to get their reactions. The best ones I got were from Solo, but I was yelling. I said Kiana James looks like she needs to be in My Little Pony. I said her eyebrows are also too big, so I told Tiffany to grab her eyebrows. What else? I said Aleister Black has too many tattoos. He needs to watch out. There might be some skin underneath the tattoos. And I said he had more tattoos than hair. I said his wife looked like Corella de Loco because of the black and white aesthetic she had going on. I was yelling all sorts of crazy things. I said Drew wears way too much leather to be enjoying the beatdown he's putting on Jimmy. The only time I didn't talk shit was when the big thing happened on SmackDown when Jade Cargill finally turned heel. I was just going nuts for that because I was like, fucking finally. She needed this for her character, and I'm really excited to see what she does. She beat the shit out of Tiffany Stratton, which is really funny because the person I was with, Tiffany, had a meet and greet earlier in the morning. She offered me to go, but I was like, I don't. It's cool. You go have fun. I don't want to wake up that early because she had to get up at like 4:30 in the morning to make sure she got there. So she had a picture with Tiffany, and Tiffany recognized her and gave her a wave in the crowd. So that was really, really cool. Then later on in the show, they had two more doc matches. The first one was really funny. It was the War Raiders versus Judgment Day. It was Finn and JD. The crowd was cheering for the Judgment Day more than they were cheering for the War Raiders, which is really funny. I spent the entire time talking shit. I said Finn looks like he's part of Korn in the 90s because he's wearing like Adidas pants that like matched his arm sleeves. So the lines were all running down. So I said like, he looked like he part of Korn in the 90s. I don't think he heard it. I was giving JD McDonough shit for his big head. That's really all I kept going with that. And I said he had too much hair on his big ass head. I kept giving him shit because I kept trying to chop the War Raiders. Again, you gotta stop. I said his chest too big. You gotta stop. My entire section kept like turning around and giving me high fives. I kept yelling funny stuff to the wrestlers. And then later, Sheamus and Solo had a match. And they got him to flip me off again because I said he looks like a really shitty Ant-Man villain.
I can't.
So finger by his ass and flipped me off behind his thigh.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, I lost my voice there for a little bit because I kept screaming. I got a lot of woos to go on. The person I'm with wasn't expecting that. Because I texted our group chat and I was like, hey, this is her first time ever going to a live event.
Nice.
I'm about to start wooing. I wooed in the crowd in the line to get in. And she looked at me like, what's your problem? I'm like, this is the kind of energy you should expect me every time I come to a wrestling event. We're also there's a taping in December that she already has tickets to, and we're going to that.
Hell yeah.
So we're hoping to do the same thing in Finagle way back on the floor so I can yell more things to the wrestlers.
Amazing.
And it's going to be on Raw, so we're hoping to see she wants to see Roman. She's a big Roman Reigns fan. So we're hoping to see them so that I can yell something funny to him.
His entrance takes like 45 hours.
Yeah. What did I say? I said something to Damian Priest too. I said he had something to do with pink eye because of his eye all fucked up.
We're gonna talk about Damien. I was just like, whoever did the makeup job that needs to be fired. I said he had pink eye. It looked like he had pink eye. Oh my goodness.
But it was really funny. I don't know a lot of the only one I know for a fact heard me was Solo. But I know the crowd, my section at least thought it was really funny. I guarantee you Michael Cole or Corey Graves because we're right behind them. Like I stared at the back of Michael Cole's head for a while.
Michael Cole.
So we saw ourselves on the Jumbotron a couple times. There's a couple times where you see a random one up. That's me. I put my ones up a lot. Yeah, it was fun. It was a blast. We had a great time. It was her first ever live event going to it. So she had a great time. Mm-hmm. She's going to this, then she's also going to Survivor Series in San Diego when it comes out.
So am I. I'm excited.
Then she's gonna go. Then we're going Survivor Series. Then we're going to Raw in December. So she's packed. She has a wrestling event every month. I think the Survivor Series was a birthday present from her mom.
Heck yeah.
So
I'm
then
excited.
she's planning on going
Yeah.
to. She has tickets already for Mania in Vegas. She's going to the Mania in Vegas as well.
I was just
Which I'm like,
Great.
that's an arm and a fucking leg you spent to get tickets for that. But she got them on
For
like
reals.
early pre-sale, and she was able to get one of the packages. She got real lucky for her, so she has herself. She's pretty set up. I'm thankful to her for being able to like, hey, I'm taking you with me for my first wrestling event. So that was really, really cool. I'm glad I made it a good experience for her. I had fun. I was just letting her enjoy it, and I was just yelling my, my obscenities at the wrestling, my random stuff. That's going to be my, if every time I'm on the floor from now on, because I did the same thing when I went to AEW, this is a WWE show.
When you went to Double or Nothing, yeah.
And I had Dak from FTR scream "fuck you" to my face after I said his head was too shiny. So,
oh man,
this is now my goal when I do wrestling events. Is I want to eventually get on a barricade spot just so I can yell the dumb things to wrestlers and have them hear me. Because there's moments where the crowd gets a little quiet and you can yell something and they can hear you.
Exactly.
I tried getting a "what" chant for Drew McIntyre during his first, when he came up and was standing on the announce table right in front of us.
Right.
But people weren't listening, and I was really, really sad. I even tried, even before the show started, I was like, guys,
I tried, you guys. Well, okay. Speaking of Drew,
me and another dude before the thing even started, we kept yelling "what" back and forth from each other from across the whole venue.
You gotta love wrestling
for like 10 minutes. We kept yelling "what" back and forth, and like I'm being looked at. She's looking at me like I'm nuts. I'm like, no, this is normal.
Well, okay. So you brought up Drew, right? So since we're talking about SmackDown, I do want to talk about Drew because I'm on paper. That's actually the first topic that I have. So the biggest thing that's kind of happening right now on SmackDown in terms of like the main event title scene is you got Cody and Drew. We're building up to this Saturday for Saturday night's main event. So the crazy thing to me is when you're in the building and the crowd still cheers the guy who hit someone with the belt, you're watching the morality bend in real time. But it's WWE, so it's just like
it's Drew. Normal. I mean, anybody would hit Drew with the belt.
That's very true.
I kept yelling at him. I'm like, dude, you lost.
Which we'll get into it a little bit because I'm like, I don't know how I feel. But anyway, so to kind of kick things off, Cody opens the night. He addresses, Drew McIntyre. They're going to fight each other at Saturday night's main event this Saturday. And in the middle of this promo, Drew kind of crashes the promo, calling Cody a corporate puppet, accusing the fans of swallowing Cody's propaganda. Drew also denied attacking Jacob Fatu, blaming Jimmy for the whole thing, because I was like, oh yeah, Jacob got attacked. So that was the thing that happened that I totally blinked on. And then, of course, moments later, Jimmy would blindside him, which sparked an all-out brawl. And then Solo's music hits. MFT swarmed the scene. Like, I was like, okay, so chaos to start SmackDown. We kind of figured this. So my first question is, this is what opened up the show. Did this segment hit? Is Drew making valid points or Cody? Or, is it just, hey, we're got to get to Saturday night's main event and then we'll figure out where we're going from here? And B, well, actually, no, that is my main question. Did this hit the way that it need to, or do we not really care? I'm going to start with Nick because you are a special friend today. It's been a couple of weeks. I personally am not digging Drew and Cody at Saturday night's main event, but that's just me. How are you feeling about it? And then what'd you think of this actual opening segment?
I'm okay with it because I think we're getting towards Drew is the justified heel. Not that he's heel, but he's a justified heel because everything he said, even about the bloodline, even dating back to the bloodline and the CM Punk stuff, the last 2 years, year and a half, 2 years of his character arc has been, he's a very justified heel in everything that he's doing. So I actually believe a lot of this and like this as I'm going to use this as a term, like a transitional feud for Cody, because I think what we're going to find out is Cody attacked Jacob Fatu, and that's what it's going to be. And that every time Drew keeps pushing Cody back on what happened to Jacob Fatu, Cody gets enraged or something happens, like Jimmy shows up. So there's a lot of interesting wrinkles in, I think, the storyline that, to me, I'm fine with where Drew's at with this as being a guy who propels the storyline further.
Sweet. I appreciate that take. Kilt, I come to you next. how did you feel about the opening segment and Cody versus Drew set for Saturday night's main event this Saturday?
Meh. That's a repeat. It's Pete and repeat. Stamp. Move on. It's literally Drew's been the. Oh, I didn't get this opportunity. It's the whole fucking Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre thing again and again and again. Big Jim's going to come out and say, "Hey man, you're still sounding like an ex-girlfriend," because that's what it is. That's all I see.
You don't see him like a guy who's not the anti-hero, but like he has been screwed over so many times because of the establishment and everything else. I don't know.
Yes, no.
It's not the
yes and no.
I could see him being a guy that like not to nowhere the level of like Stone Cold Steve Austin, but like something where he's anti-establishment because every time all these people have been screwing him over, and it's all these factions that got built up that got to the top when he was just trying to do his own thing and just somehow got caught up in all those storylines.
And then there was like a situation where he could have just like not. He could have just not, but he did get involved anyways. You know, it's just obviously it's story writing, but it's like, well, you could have just ignored this. You could have just gone off to the side like usual and bitched and complained. But now you're involved.
He's trying to make it a better place. That's a facey thing to do. That's the right thing to do.
I don't think he's he's as I've said before. There's always I don't like the 2-part dynamic of face and heel. I like to have like a middle ground where they're not quite face, not quite heel. They're an ego, and he's ego-centric, not as much as the Miz, which is more heel ego. And I'll get into this a little bit later with when if we talk about Carmelo. But Drew is he's just stroking his ego. Really, it's like. I see him constantly feuding, constantly doing this, constantly doing that. And you know what? If it comes out that he is actually innocent and didn't do anything to Jacob Fatu, that'll be great. That'll be a good story because I haven't been paying much attention.
Yeah, I will say though, for the Fatu portion of it, this is going to drag out because according to reports, Jacob is out for the remainder of the year. So we're going to drag this into probably, honestly, just have Jacob return during Rumbles. Like that is, I think, where it goes. Minnie, same question to you. What did you think? You were there live. So what did you think of the opening segment? And obviously it had to have felt different watching that live than on television. And how are you feeling about Drew and Cody at Saturday night's main event?
Being there live, it was cool, but as a fan watching, I kind of agree with Kill. The fact that like Drew, his character concept is cool. I like the idea of the character. We all agreed that when he first started bringing this character, his feud with CM Punk wasn't fucking phenomenal, but the character now is stale. He needs something new. It's still a good character, but he needs something new besides the same kind of complaining over and over again. It needs a kick. So like it's I feel like this is just like it's gonna be a one-off. Cody's gonna beat Drew, and then Drew's gonna go off and complain that he lost another opportunity over some BS or something like that, and that's gonna be it, unless something happens like Drew winning, which would be nuts. That kind of twist would be insane. That's what Drew needs, is some sort of big win or a twist or something that help his character. And needs that to get rid of the staleness that is I'm being felt with Drew's character overall.
That is a decent point. And here's where I stand on all of this, right? After listening to all you three, because I love Drew to death. I will always ride or die for Drew McIntyre. I don't necessarily blame Drew. And I actually kind of agree with Nick. I think this is a fine feud, to transitional feud, if you will, for Cody and Drew. Because right now, outside of those two, we're kind of, I was like, I have no idea where Randall Keith Orton is at the moment. And outside of those three on SmackDown, we really don't have anybody else. Well, I mean, technically we could have had Jacob, but since Jacob is going to be out for the rest of the year, that's not coming into play until next year. So what's up?
I got a question for you.
What's up?
So is there a world, because so like you tend to agree with me on this, like as like a transition to getting Cody potentially to that heel turn. Could Cody, because let's say Jacob is out remainder of the year and comes back potentially Rumble, right? So what are we in October? So 2.5 months. So could Cody turn before that happens, or is it like a Jade Cargill Naomi situation where Jacob returns and outs Cody as his attacker? Like, do you see Cody returning? Because I could see two different worlds where there's like Cody already being a heel and then Jacob returning and it's like obvious that Cody was his attacker, or there's the world where Jacob, comes in and there's the announce that there's the big reveal then that Cody was his attacker.
So there are two different paths, and honestly, I like either option because it has the potential to have some fun stuff. I think my only issue is not that those are the two paths. My worry, not even an issue. My worry is the execution of it, because sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. The track record for the Fed has been like 50-50. For me personally, I think I would like the reveal to happen where he just turns. Let me think. No. I would like Cody to turn before the end of the year and not wait until Jacob returns and outs him, because we've already done that twice this year with Naomi and Jade and all that good stuff. So I think Cody turning would be crazy. The important part is where that turn happens. No shade to Saturday night's main event, but I mean, that would be a good talking point. But I feel that if the turn was going to happen, you literally have one more major pay-per-view, like traditional pay-per-view, because then December is Saturday night's main event, where it's headlined by John Cena's final and retirement match. So if you're going to do it before the end of the year, Survivor Series is technically a big four pay-per-view. So I don't know what Cody's plans are. I don't know what that looks like, but having him turn at Survivor Series would be nuts.
Yeah, but also, what about? But you just kind of threw that out there, not to cut you off, but you threw out there like idea of like, yeah, it's not a traditional PLE, but they've treated it as such. Saturday night's main event, John Cena's last match. Imagine Cody being Cody's turn, happening at like John Cena's last match. That would be an interesting way of like passing the torch and having a big moment to move on. But I want to throw this out there, everyone. Just I don't want to get too ahead and derail us too much, but like we touched upon like the Jacob Fatu thing. If not Cody, and I guess Jimmy has been mentioned, who could be Jacob's attacker like that everyone here sees besides those two? Because I'm creatively, right? We're all creative people. We could probably write a storyline for anyone. But I'm curious who everyone's kind of rooting for in this. If it's not Cody or the obvious two that we've already discussed.
Oh, so you're asking who would we put stock in to be the next undisputed champ then?
No. Well, more about not necessarily that, just like who attacked Jacob Fatu, right? Like, so who would you give that storyline to, arc to, if it's not Cody or Jimmy or Uso at this point?
That's a good question.
Randy.
I was gonna say, I feel like of anyone, Randy.
Either Randy or another one of the Fatu family that has been brought in, like Zilla or something like that. I don't know if he's been brought in yet, but it could be one of those. But Randy's a good choice. I think he could be up there. Funny enough, even though he had a match against Ilya, which we'll get into, Aleister Black could be a potential option. And see what he can build from that character. There's a couple good options, but I'm trying to think one that would make the most sense would be Randy to me.
If we're going to go with the main roster SmackDown, yes, I think Randy is at the top of my list. Also, I also feel that, because I've seen this done before, that Jacob, but it would kind of suck for Jacob, but not really. It depends on who it was. It could also be because there's a couple of people from NXT who we haven't seen in a couple of weeks. So I was just like, I could also see Jacob being attacked by an NXT star. The Only one that I would be okay with, even though it would do justice for nobody, in my personal opinion, but I wouldn't put it past WWE, is that if you have someone like an Obafemi, who was the one who did it, as much as you would have to convince me to believe it would be possible for the second one too, we also have Tony D'Angelo, who's been missing from television too.
Seriously.
So I think Tony D is making his debut on main roster very soon, especially because WWE the other day released this weird, like, quick video of somebody walking in black shoes. I'm like, it's gotta be Tony. I was like, Tony is about to come. But
I got one more that I just realized as we talked about this when we were there. LA Knight.
But now he's on Raw though. But
I was gonna
he hasn't been anywhere.
Yeah,
That's
he
true.
hasn't. Well,
There's
it's a
not really
big
a
talking
roster
discussion
split
on
anymore.
our show about LA Knight being buried in burials.
Don't even get me started. We couldn't spend a whole episode. I was just like, what are we doing with LA? But it is what, like, we don't need to get into all of that. So yeah, Randy, I think, is at the top of my list personally. I can also see them doing NXT. I would be okay if Oba. You would have to take me a little bit more convincing as to why Tony would attack Jacob, but I can be here for that too. And I think that's what we're discussing. It kind of puts a glaring issue. I mean, SmackDown has some amazing talent, and we're just not utilizing a lot of people currently. I feel like the majority of our SmackDown talent is stuck in the mid card, and we have very few people up at the top. I was like, you guys, can we do feuds that don't necessarily have to do around the championships? I know people are tired of me saying this, but I'm like, you can do feuds without championships, and it's not just the WWE problem. I feel like some promotions are having a really hard time creating feuds and storylines that don't revolve around the title. I'm like, you can do it, I promise. So that's why I'm hoping it is Randy, because Jacob versus Randy on paper sounds like a really fun time, but also I feel like you can do some fun stuff. But then I would need the motivation as to why is the question. Because what's the motivation? Because if you can convince me with a good enough motivation, I will buy into the feud 100%.
The belt, I think unfortunately, because Cody was a champion, it was the number one contendership, but he wasn't in line. But he's been around it enough that you could kind of make that case that, like, he's seen it enough, and Cody's kind of not flaunted it in his face, but it's been around him enough that he should feel that greed.
Very, very true. Well, speaking of championships, let's talk about the second thing that I want to talk about for SmackDown. We didn't have a show last week, but we have a new United States champion in the form of a returning Ilya Dragunov, the Mad Lad, the Mad Dragon. I love Ilya so much. I was like, I missed you so much. Also, man got yoked in a home tattoo and everything. It's amazing. So, Ilya won the title off of Sami Zayn last week. And this week we saw Sami Zayn kind of pass on the open challenge torch. And we saw this with Ilya taking on an Aleister Black in what I deemed as my favorite match of SmackDown, in a beautiful showcase, German suplexes, stiff kicks, constant counters. I will say someone sent me a picture and I was laughing so hard. I was like, with Aleister and Zelina's entrance, I was like, damn. I was like, they really did Cross and Scarlett dirty.
I was thinking the same thing.
I was like, you guys, I'm here for this. We're far enough in. That's kind of fucked up. I was like, you couldn't have done this for Cross and Scarlett? What the hell, man?
I wonder if, I still, in my heart of hearts, even though, I guess, is it too far gone for that to be considered a work to shoot? But I still think he's coming back, and maybe in the time that they potentially build up Aleister and Zelina in this, we could get that. Fingers crossed.
Fingers are crossed.
It'd be dope as a faction.
Crazier things have happened in wrestling, but we shall see. In the meantime, I will be enjoying Cross and Scarlett on my independent wrestling shows that we review here, because they're going to be popping up in MLW in a couple of weeks for their show in November. But back to Aleister and Ilya. So I really like this match. Of course, we got Zelina interfering and she got ejected. Damian Priest coming out with, listen, I am not a makeup job type of person. I don't have any experience in it. But whoever did that makeup job for Damian's eye, I'm just like, now, I'm not a makeup expert. But I'm pretty sure that the human anatomy, the way that it bruises like that, wouldn't be that pink. I'm just saying. I was just like, oh, it's like Spirit Halloween all over again, which, you know what? I'm okay with. It was whatever, but that was just one thing. I was like, I hyper focus on the weirdest things that take me out. But Damien did appear. He caused a bit of a distraction. Dragunov seals the win with a Torpedo Moscow, which I have missed seeing that on my screen. And yeah, then Priest and Alistair fight. So I was like, they're going to continue to fight, which I'm like, okay. So here's my question for everyone. It seems with Alistair and Damien continue to fight, and I feel that we're also kind of keeping them around this mid-card scene for the U.S. title. So my question is, if it's between Alistair and Damien, who do you see as Ilya's best option for a rivalry? Damien Priest or Alistair Black? Or do you think it could be somebody completely different? And then to kind of add the secondary for that, do you like seeing the open challenge staying a weekly thing for Ilya, or should it be slowed down to make it feel more special?
I like the open challenge.
Okay,
sorry.
So that
I started talking.
That question.
I realized I wasn't muted. I started talking.
All right,
like
well, Vinny, you go first. So you like the open challenge? Cool.
I like the open challenge since John Cena's already doing it.
That's very true.
I feel like this either could turn into. I think it's going to turn into a triple threat.
WWE loves triple threats.
Alistair, Damien, Ilya, and I feel like it's mostly going to be the other two trying to kill each other, but also trying to go for the United States belt. Ilya's just there, but Ilya's going to be like, I'm not just here. Watch me beat the shit out of both of you because I'm Ilya fucking Dragunov. And he's going to do his things. That match was really cool. I took myself out of it a little bit by yelling things at the wrestlers, but it was still a lot of fun. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I kept saying that. I also kept saying that Alistair was too big to be doing the karate shit. That made people laugh, but it was really, really cool. It was fun. I feel like this is going to turn into a triple threat with those three, or Ilya's going to go off and do his own thing, and then it could be somebody else while those two continue to beat the shit out of each other. I don't know, but I feel like it could turn into a triple threat. I think that's a pretty high likelihood.
Very, very fair. Kilt, I come to you next too. So same question. Do you like the weekly open challenges for the U.S. Championship? And do you think Damien, Alistair, or somebody else would be a good first feud for Ilya as United States champion?
I do like the weekly challenge, the weekly open challenge. I think it's really, really good. It's a fun opportunity. It shows that this title is, or whoever has this title is willing to be a fighting champion. Ilya needs to be very careful because he looked like he tweaked his neck a little bit when he was doing his thing.
So really quickly though, I was just like, I love Ilya to death, but that's always been his thing, even in NXT. I'm like, somebody needs to tell him that wrestling does not need to go this hard 100% of the time. But anyways, continue.
Yeah. No, it's a situation of, my dude, please don't hurt yourself. But it has been very interesting to say the least. The next feud for this title, or at least the next challenger for this title, it shouldn't be Damien or Alistair until they finish up their beef, at least their rivalry situation, which I thought it was done. I don't know. It's a eye for an eye situation. But it's going to be interesting. I don't really know who I can pull off of the roster that would actually be a good match for Ilya right now. But this weekly challenge is actually a lot of fun, and I think having a chance for Fraxium to either like go against each other, because they hinted at that at one point, or have Fraxium and DIY kind of duke it out for who gets to challenge next. That's a good thing. But if they do that and one of the tag teams wins, I think there should be a match between each of the tag team. Like there should be a match between Fraxium to figure out who gets to challenge first of Fraxium, or who of DIY gets to challenge first.
No, and to be completely honest, as much as I like all four of them, I'm here for Nathan Frazier and Axiom. Kind of if that situation, because Nathan versus Ilya and Axiom versus Ilya would eat. Not gonna lie. Nick, I'm gonna come to you because I have my answer that I'm gonna conclude with. But how do you feel about the open challenges, and who, Alistair, Damien, or somebody else for Ilya's first big feud as champion?
Yeah, I think we're all in relative consensus here with the open challenges should probably stay for this reason alone. Ilya, to me, is not as charismatic as maybe you all feel differently. I get he's great in the ring. To me, he doesn't, like, on the mic. I tried to listen to his promo, I couldn't. It bores me. He doesn't really interest me that much in a lot of what he does. I get he's good in the ring, but he doesn't talk me into the room, into my seat, right, to buying a seat. So to me, the best way to expose someone like that is to do these open challenges and have him put on bangers week after week. And that's what shows how great of a worker he is and gives me a respect for him that much more. And it's done that to some extent in a different way. Lyra Valkyria, I've felt like she hasn't done open challenge, but she's wrestled so much that I've had a deeper appreciation for her in the ring. She had so many great matches that she's eventually developed her personality, whether it's just putting her in storylines with other people who have a little bit more charisma that help elevate her. And that's what they need. So, like, I think it works well for Ilya, the open challenge. I agree with, I think it was Kilt said, right, that Alistair and Damien need to finish their feud. I don't want Alistair Black being fed to anybody. I like Alistair Black's arc, and I love what he can do with Zelina Vega now with him. Maybe even, like we said, maybe starting a stable, like a new House of Black type thing in WWE. Of that also, talk about distractions. Someone said that earlier. Whatever Zelina's wearing, I approve. I approve that outfit. Don't tell my wife, but I very much approve.
I'm totally telling your wife.
She knows.
She knows. She knows.
She's probably watching.
He's like, me too.
But yeah, it's just like, well, because she's funny because, like, it was the whole crawl thing. You know, it's the whole crawl thing. She's like, "Yep, get it, girl." She's like, "Yep," and I was like, "Yeah, it looks good. It looks good." So, but yeah, I don't want that anywhere near all that storyline. I want Alistair to get either a belt or to build himself up significantly more than ever before. And why is it, that he's always involved in storylines with eyes? Feels like, remember, he always had, like, he had the eye patch on. How many?
It was so
Cynthia
weird.
got the eye.
I was like, it's so weird. Why are we doing this? Anywho, I was just like, this is getting out of hand. So I agree with. So to kind of conclude this little segment, I agree. I also love the open challenges, especially, you know, I mean, I'm biased. I love Ilya to death. I do agree with you, Nick, that he is not the most charismatic person. However, because I also have followed him when he was in NXT UK, and then when he came in, here stateside for NXT, I was like, you know what? It's not the greatest talker, but you know what? I'm behind him a little bit more, but that's because I have that history. Obviously, with main roster, it kind of resets because not a lot of people watch NXT, though y'all should, because they do some great work, even though sometimes I leave with scratching my head with questions, but NXT, for the most part, is pretty solid. Shawn Michaels and the kids are doing pretty good for themselves. Now, as far as a feud, I agree. I think Damien and Alistair need to finish what beef they got. I would love to see Ilya and Alistair feud for a little bit. Speaking of somebody needing to finish beef, when he finishes his beef with a certain Mike Mizanin, because I enjoy the feud that we got when they were in NXT together, Carmelo Hayes and Ilya Dragunov will feed families, because their Great American Bash 2022 championship match was bonkers. It was nuts. It was amazing. And those two have incredible in-ring chemistry together. I just need Carmelo to finish his business with Miz, and then we can enter that. I would like to see, I don't want to say transitional feud, but Alistair and Ilya would be a lot of fun. But then if you're ready to move Ilya into something else, Melo and him should be the feud, because I wanted that, because they will go nuts against each other in the ring. But that's just me, though. But that's another thing. I'm like, Melo and Miz need to finish business, because I'm tired of it. I know it's not been that long, but I'm tired of this. I'm like, let's move Melo out to do something better. Triple H, what are we doing? Anywho, but speaking of which, that wasn't the only crazy thing that happened. We saw some tension. We saw some turns. So let's talk about the chaos erupting at some points of the show. So we got a whole bunch of different things. You know, MFT still a tag win after Solo's distraction, but going back, let's talk about Jade and Drew. So Drew, we kind of already discussed, you know, him and Jimmy had that no DQ match in the main event, and Drew destroyed Jimmy and Cody afterwards. But the big thing we want to talk about is Jade has finally arrived. I mean, she has been here, but now we can officially say a storm is coming, because we are getting heel Jade. And I have been saying this since she came to the company. I need baddies Jade. I didn't need babyface Jade. It took us 2 years, but it seems that we are now getting the baddies Jade, where she's just going to be a heel. Now we just need to get a couple baddies to surround her. And I know people are like, but you're copying from AEW. But I was like, but that's what worked with Jade when she was in there. She was green, but she surrounded herself, and that personality carried. And I like Jade better as a heel than I do as a face. So she literally comes out to help, quote unquote, help Tiffany after Julia and Kiana James are beating her down after the match that Kiana and Tiffany have. And then Jade destroys Tiffany. And then in a backstage segment, she says that she's done and tired of waiting. She's just going to take what she wants. And I was just like, this outfit though, girl, I'm here for it. And here's the thing though. I'm trying to remember who told me this. But what Jade was wearing and what our backstage interview, Kathy Kelly, shout out to Kathy, love her. It looked like a news reporter interviewing the origin of a supervillain in that whole entire thing with what Jade. I was like, Jade looks like she just was a hero, and now she's snapped and becoming a supervillain. And I love that analogy, because we know Jade also loves to cosplay. So my question for everyone, what do you think felt like the bigger impact heading into Saturday night's main event? Jade announcing herself as the alpha of the SmackDown women's division, or Drew standing tall over both of the Usos and Cody? Who came out looking the strongest to you between those two? And you can kind of talk about any of those things here. I am going to throw a wrench into the plan, and I'm going to start with Kilt. So Kilt, let's start with you. Who has bigger momentum going into Saturday night's main event, Jade or Drew? And just whatever you want to talk about.
Jade has more momentum. As we said, the Drew storyline is kind of stagnant for the most part. They're trying to breathe life into it. It's not really working great. It's working, but I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. But you know, you have Jade coming in looking fine as all get out, like a pristine storm goddess, and like. This situation is actually going to be a lot of fun. I really want to see Jade take, as much as I enjoy Tiffy time, I think it's Tiffy's time to pass. Like, she's done an amazing job. She's protected that title the entire year since she's got it. She's literally every single match that she's been in, she's undefeated at the moment. But I think it's time for Tiffy to lose and pass it on to someone else. And I think Jade is the perfect person so far to be able to take over. And that will be something that I'm excited for. Not saying that Tiffany's underwhelming or underperforming. She's doing an amazing job. I want Jade. I do want to step back one set to Carmelo Hayes, where I was going to say he's more of a baby heel, not a baby heel, a baby-faced ego.
Mm-hmm.
While Miz is the heel-faced ego. So there's a kind of like a little dynamic because you want Carmelo to do well, and you kind of want Miz to fuck off and retire. But the great dynamic, but they're all ego because they're all about themselves. Besides that, yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, Nick, I want to come to you next. So we've had previous conversations on camera and off camera about Jade and everything, whether it be here or on your show. So my same question to you. Who has bigger momentum going into Saturday night's main event? And then just what are your overall thoughts about, anything?
If just alone on recency bias, Jade's going to have more momentum because her turn is more recent than all this that's going on. I mean, I know it happened on the same show, but like still, to me, yeah, it's Drew beating up Jimmy Uso or beating up Cody. It's just furthering their feud versus this is something now it's become a blood feud between her and Tiffy Stratton. So that gives her a little bit more momentum for at least the next couple weeks.
Very, very fair. And of course, Minnie will round the SmackDown portion up. So what do you think?
Jade, her turn is insane. It was nuts seeing it happen. So I think she has more momentum going into what's going to happen in the future because this is something we've been wanting from Jade. I think since like Mikey's been like preaching for this to happen since we first got the glimpses of her in WWE of like we need bad guy Jade. So
we need baddies Jade. I was like, Jade to me works better as a heel, and hopefully we'll get that. Now the question is, I'm here for Jade, and I agree with Kilt. I think Jade will probably dethrone Tiffy. I'm 50-50 if they're going to if they're going to have Jade beat her at Saturday night's main event. But I do foresee Jade. I don't want Jade to have to wait until Mania to become champion. I know everyone talks about the WrestleMania moment, but I'm like, you know what? I think if Jade ends the year as champion, that would be a lot of fun. It could be on a random SmackDown if they're not going to give it to her on Saturday night's main event. However, my wonder is if WWE is going to let Jade run by herself for a little bit, or if they're going to have her be surrounded. Because I love it when she has baddies around. But the question is who? Now, depending on what happens on Tuesday, whether it's a feud or even a partnership, her and Lash Legend of NXT would be an amazing dynamic. I've been preaching for Jay, but I've also been preaching for Lash too. I was like, if you're not going to give Lash the championship, put her on this main roster. Like, I think Lash is ready. She proved it at Evolution in that Battle Royale. She's been consistent. And I'm just like, if anything, if you're not going to have Jade, I'm just like, if Lash is not going to do anything, if you're not going to give her a championship or anything, put Lash and Jade together because that would be amazing.
What's interesting, Mike, is we've talked for a long time, and I know Josh is one of the callers on our show who comes on a lot, and I've talked for a long time about a women's factions, like a Nation of Domination type thing. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't expect Jade to be the one to lead it. But what if Bianca came back and joined up with Jade?
That's
and now you have Lash. Yeah,
I think, and here's the thing, because for whatever reason, and I'm not going to get too deep into it, I was just like, before she's been gone because of injury or whatever is happening with Bianca, people were turning on her. They were booing her out booing her. And I was like, Bianca hasn't done anything in character-wise to warrant that. I was like, are y'all just tired of her? But it is what it is. But honestly, Bianca and Jade would also be very fun if we're not ready to call up Lash. And yeah, I think Bianca and Jade were kind of running as much people complain. It's like, we don't want to see dominant champions. I'm like, yes, you do. Don't lie to me. It's just like, if we watch Jade and Bianca run through the women's division on SmackDown, I'm here for it. And plus, it would be a nice change for Bianca. You don't have to make her full heel, but let her be a baddie. Just like, I need she doesn't even go here, Bianca, back for a little bit.
Well, Mikey, you also have Damage Control, which I think when Bayley came back, right, at SummerSlam, wasn't Io I don't know if Io wasn't, I don't think a former world champion at that point in time, but still, it would be the same situation that you're creating with Bianca, right? Because if Bianca comes in with Lash and joins up with Jade, Jade's never been a champion, well, tag champion, but whatever. And there's Lash, so like
Bianca
it's
can
basically
guide
the same
yeah.
dynamic as what Damage Control was.
And hopefully the execution will be a little bit better.
Exactly.
That was my biggest issue. I was just like, you have potential and you didn't capitalize on it. Y'all suck. But no, so I'm excited. This is going to be fun. And that takes care of the SmackDown portion of things, which I'm going to be completely honest. SmackDown was a little bit more fun for me, but we do have to go talk about Raw. So I'm like, all righty, Raw. So, Minnie, I know you got things you got to do. So thank you for being here for the SmackDown portion. I will see you next Sunday. So,
yep, I'll see y'all next week. Y'all have fun.
Later, Minnie.
Remember, Solo is just a bad Marvel villain.
all righty, Minnie, take care. All righty, so let me get us situated really quickly. So again, we've gone over the Smacketh of Downs, so now we go into the Monday Night Raw. So let's get into it. So let's talk about the first thing for Raw, which of course is what we all speculated. And I know some people are still saying it's a work, but I just, after Seth Rollins' injury thing going into summer and cashing it in, I was just like, I was there too, but it's official to me. So let's talk about the, everything that happened. So basically, Monday Night Raw kicks things off. Paul Heyman basically walked out and launched a new empire on live TV. A new rebranded, the revision, if you want to call it, was born. So we started off, Adam Pearce officially stripped Seth Rollins of the World Heavyweight Championship due to injury. Heyman, with Big Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, was kind of feeling his oats a little bit, making Pearce, say please for the title belt. And
the big ball breakers. That's what
the big ball breakers. I love it. But Heyman cuts a scathing promo crowning Breaker as the new face of, Monday Night Raw, as well as the new face of Mania. And you know what? Heyman declared that winners write history and the Vision just rewrote WWE's. So, of course, Seth getting hurt at Crown Jewel Perth kind of put some things on, changing of plans, but here we are. So first question, of course, Heyman is at the helm of this whole entire segment to begin that kicked off Monday Night Raw, and we would find out later we would get a battle royale to determine Punk's opponent for Saturday night's main event for the vacant title, which of course Breaker and Reed were not going to be a part of, thanks to Adam Pearce. But question, we have seen Paul Heyman jump from faction to faction. He is a faction hopper, as I call it. Is Heyman truly passing the torch from Bloodline era to this Vision, or is this just the same long con with some new muscle as we've seen with Heyman? And the secondary question is, who among the two of you and for us in general do we think Breaker can actually carry the spotlight right now? Because it seems that's who is being primed to be at the forefront right now. So Nick, I'm gonna start with you. Is this a true passing of the torch from the Bloodline era into the Vision era, or is this the same game with just different players?
Well, I don't think the Bloodline era ever is going to end because there's so many of those cousins and relatives that are just popping up everywhere.
We saw the picture of the family tree.
yeah, and doesn't Jacob also have 9 kids or something like that? So,
he has a lot of children, and a good chunk of them I think are starting to train for wressling too.
Yeah, there's so many of them. Yeah. So the Bloodline, we're never going to be done with the Bloodline era, period. But nor do I think to some extent we should be and what I mean by that is I do think that, and this is a bigger, broader discussion for another time, but I do think that a lot of the legends and the biggest stars of today, right, are not necessarily newer names, but names that have history and lore that date back to their parents, right, and their family lineage. Cody Rhodes, right? We're talking about the Bloodline. There's so many, Braun Breaker, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that their lineage and it adds credibility to that. But Part 2, yeah, no, I think it's. I think Paul Heyman ends up with Bronson Reed because that's where he could be most beneficial. That's because Braun Breaker, I think, can handle it on his own. I think he's got that. I think he's got more charisma than Batista did when Batista left Evolution. So, to me, I think he could handle the load right now. But I would like to see him get a big moment, not just like a kind of a makeshift. I don't want to say a makeshift moment because of Seth Rollins' injury, but it kind of is. It wasn't a storyline crafted moment, like, where you'd probably, if you draw it up, you'd say, "Hey, get your WrestleMania moment, win the Rumble, or some better storyline than this." That's kind of my whole spiel on it.
Very, very fair. And Kilt, same question to you. How do we feel about the revision, as I'm calling them for right now? And yeah,
the revision. Some editor got bored. Honestly, I think they're gonna use up Paul Heyman until he feels like not going on TV anymore, and he's just probably gonna party hop. For the most part, he's gonna start up someone else. He's gonna do this. He's gonna do that. And honestly, I just, as much as I want to say that he is the Bronze are leaders, future WrestleManias, Braun Breaker's promo skills are poor. Bronson Reed's is mediocre. All I got out of this, little thing is Becky's pissed off. But then again, I don't.
Ta-da.
Sorry, someone was texting me about their.
That was the universe
time.
agreeing with you.
Yeah, basically.
For real.
It's a situation of like, I don't know what direction they're trying to take it with. I think it's weird. I think it's just a weird situation. I'm more interested in where they're trying to go with Jimmy and Jay right now, because that's a little bit more interesting to me.
We might see at some point in time a tag match between the Bronze against Seth Rollins and probably Roman Reigns, and you see like a sort of Shield reunion.
Very, very fair. Alrighty. So that's going to be in the background leading into what the remainder of the year. So obviously they had to shift plans with Seth being out, but we're going to revisit that because it kind of ties into what I want to talk about later. Because again, as I said, we're getting a battle royale because with Seth being stripped, Punk needs an opponent to fight for the vacant title at Saturday night's main event. We're going to get into that in a little bit, but let's talk about it because we had some titles change hands on Monday Night Raw. Not going to lie, the weirdest pairing to see Styles and Dragon Lee together as a random thrown together tag team. They were both fighting the Grande Americanos, so that is kind of a thing that has been happening over the last couple weeks. And then last week they're like, hey, we want a tag team championship match. And Adam Pearce is like, all right, bet, Scrap Daddy made this official. I'm going to be so for real. I was like, okay, it's going to be fine. It's going to be whatever. Judgment Day are going to retain. This is how it normally goes. To my surprise, and to my flabbers were gasted, as I say, because Styles and Dragon Lee are your new tag team champions. And so on the one hand, I was like, ooh, cool. Dragon Lee has championship gold. AJ Styles tag team. I kind of like this. But I was also be like, where are we going, though? I was just like, I've said this for quite some time, and both of you have heard it in various iterations. The Raw tag team division right now is a whole mess. I was like, we're not doing anything with them. Am I happy to see the Judgment Day finally lose the titles? Sure. But am I afraid that AJ and Dragon Lee are going to run the same pattern where we don't see these guys defend these titles ever so often until they feel like it? Probably, because creative has nothing for this tag team division. And I'm like, you know what? If this is how AJ wants to spend the tail end of his career being a tag champ before, going stuff, that's fine. But boys, what do we think? Do we like the new champions? Are we worried about where we're going with the tag team titles? I mean, tag team division in WWE, it doesn't exist apparently to some people, but that is for a whole nother conversation. Kilt, I'm gonna start with you. We got new champs. Do we dig it? Do we not? How we feel?
I feel confused. Like what? Well, like I understand why it was done, because it was done to kind of Dom, which should fuel, in my opinion, should definitely fuel the. Can you stop messaging me for like 5 minutes?
The universe is trying to tell you something.
Well, it's trying to tell me that my friend is arriving in 3.5 hours, and they want me to hang out with them so that they don't sit at the bus station for 70 minutes by themselves. And yeah, so basically, the situation as I see it is, it's weird. It's like I'm not sure I understand what they're doing with any of the tag teams. It's a bit odd. We're gonna have to work on it, I guess. We'll see what happens.
Okay, Nick, same questions to you. How we feel? Do we like the new tag champs? Do we have questions? Like what? Like how we feel?
It's interesting because I was like, oh, like when we were doing for our show on Friday, I was like, oh man, like AJ Styles. I was like, was this the first time he won the tag titles? And it wasn't. And his other time was with Omos.
Yep.
Omos, whatever. And I was like, oh man. And then I was like, so again, a similar situation. They paired him with another singles guy that they're trying to elevate. So I get it. Dragon Lee hasn't done anything in WWE. Rey Mysterio hasn't done anything to elevate Dragon Lee into the luchador of the future or whatever he was supposed to be. Mm-hmm. So to me, I'm okay with it. I think that, yeah, there's maybe move Fraxium to Raw, maybe that whole angle with Dragunov, maybe give them each a match, and then like them coming together is the fact that they're coming to Raw to be in a new area, a new division. I don't know. I could be okay with that.
Yeah. Raw tag team division needs an injection right now.
Yeah, but I think AJ has great matches and Dragon Lee is great in the ring, so they'll put on a show to try and elevate things. It's just, yeah, we need some more in the tag division on Raw for sure.
100%. So where I stand on all of this too, I like it. I mean, we know that AJ's retiring next year, which I'm not. My body's not ready for it. I'll cry. But at the same time, AJ's just gonna have fun with it, and I'm here for however long this title run as tag champs are going to be. Now, I'm not saying you don't have to do the exact thing, because at first I was like, AJ and Dragon Lee as a tag team is literally thrown together. But WWE, you need to capitalize on this, figure out how you're going to do it, because again, I don't like to compare feds because we're talking about WWE, but if you can make Brodito work, because at first I was like, Brody King and Bandito, I was like, this is a thrown together tag team. And now I was like, I don't want them to ever lose these titles. I don't want them to ever break up. You need to find a way to get AJ and Dragon Lee to be lovable so everybody wants to be behind them. Like, get it together. So I hope the WWE and creative can figure something else out.
Well, they're calling him AJ Lee now.
Listen, AJ. Speaking of which, I was like,
with him as a manager, like Paige used to be.
That's what I'm saying. I was just like, this is random, but I'm here for it. It's always the random pairings. If you can make me care about them, I am going to be the day one 100% behind them. So
I also feel like the Grande Americanos could be in the tag team title scene, and they just haven't figured out a way to integrate that in.
I was like, why are the Grande Americanos not involved in this tag division? Listen, the U.S. crowd loves them. They're over in Mexico, as we've seen in AAA. Listen, I still hold to the fact that whoever was in charge, to break the fourth wall. So plug your ears if you don't want to hear this, y'all. The fact that Ludwig Kaiser is Grande Americano right now, peeling back the curtain a little bit.
It's Chad Gable. How dare you?
How dare you? Regardless, I feel like whoever was in charge gave it to this person as not a punishment, but it's just like, we got nothing for you. And I think they were expecting them to fail. But the fact that Grande Americano is kind of over here in the stateside, but Mexico freaking loves that dude, I was like, oh, it backfired big time. You cannot not have this character now. And also the fact that Grande Americano, Ludwig at the moment, can actually speak fluent Spanish is amazing. I was like, I don't think y'all were ready for that. I was like, did you forget that he can speak 5 languages, you guys? Like, what is happening? I was just like, anyways, I'm here for AJ and Dragon Lee. I agree with you, Nick. I feel like maybe we can shift Fraxium over to Raw, which I feel like they should have when they got called up from NXT, because the Raw tag team division needs an energy boost. I think them with AJ and Dragon Lee would be fun. No one knows what happened in New Day, so I was just like, we're not seeing them. War Raiders aren't on television as much as possible. Does anyone know what happened to the Creeds? Because they just disappeared off the face of television. Like, I was like, I don't know.
Seriously, yeah, that's another one.
That's the big one. I was like, where are the Creeds? I was like, I didn't read anybody getting hurt. So where is Julius and Brutus? Like, what happened? Like, where are they?
Yeah, I have not seen the Mayo brothers and the Honey Mustard Sister at all.
Yeah, and that's the same thing. I'm like, where did Ivy go to? Like, what's happening? And the crazy thing is it's like, now, if main roster were going to send some folks to Japan to, Pro Wrestling Noah, I was like, okay, maybe I understand. No, instead of sending the Creeds to Japan, Hank and Tank of NXT are going to Pro Wrestling Noah for a little bit after this past week. And I'm just like, no shade, because I love Hank and Tank, but you're going to send those boys to Japan? I was like, you could have sent the Creeds to Japan, and I think they would have been amazing. But that's the whole nother conversation. I don't know what's going on with Raw Tag Team Division. And also, I'm like, where do we go with the Judgment Day? Are we getting ready for Liv to return soon? Are we waiting for her to appear back in the Rumble, which would be kind of shitty because then she would appear at the Saudi Rumble, which nobody wants to see. But that's a whole nother conversation. But let's wrap things up. We talked about it during the first topic of Raw. We're getting a Battle Royale, so let's talk about this Battle Royale. Monday Night Raw ended, I guess, like poetic symmetry is what a friend told me. I disagree with him, but that's a whole nother topic. We get another Uso triumph and another brother left behind. Raw's Battle Royale decided the challenger for the vacant world title. Of course, winner would go on to face CM Punk at Saturday night's main event. And after a chaotic mix of heavy hitters, Jey Uso eliminated Jimmy and LA Knight to win, setting up Punk versus Jey for the championship at Saturday night's main event. We ended the show with Punk joining Jey in the ring to have a face-to-face stare down, as the camera also caught Jimmy fuming out on the outside. So, question for the entire panel. Again, because with Seth being injured, we had to shuffle a couple of things around. Are we seeing already Jay's singles redemption arc taking shape, or are we on a collision course for Jimmy versus Jey implosion? Which I'm already going to point out, I do not want, especially after what happened at Mania. You cannot wash that taste out of my mouth or bleach enough my eyeballs to unsee what I saw that whole match. And the real question I want to ask is Jey versus Punk at Saturday night's main event. Who do you each think benefits from this more? Punk or Jey from this match happening? Nick, I'm going to start with you because I can. So, do we care about Do we care about Jey going back for the title already? And who do you think who needs this more coming out of Saturday night's main event, in your opinion?
Jey. Because I can present a storyline and a story arc that actually I'm okay with Jey. I don't want neither of them, right? Neither of them deserve the belt at this point in time, or really storyline wise would benefit from this having the belt at this point in time. But because of the situation that we're in now, here's where we're at. But that being said, between the two, the one with more upside in the short term is Jey Uso for this reason. He's already been a world champion. Punk's arc is that, he hasn't main evented WrestleMania. Now he's got that to his name. The last thing to check off of his box is to win the world title. If you do it on a random Saturday night's main event in November, it doesn't have the same effect as any other moment of the big four PLAs. So to me, it's a waste. Jey, you can put the belt on him now. It's not his first title run. So even if it's a wasted title run, it's not his first run, right? Like, you want your first to be significant. And at this point in time, I could present an arc where Jay wins the belt and could even, there's two people. He could lose it to Braun Breaker at any point in time, which he's lost the Intercontinental title to Braun Breaker in storylines already. And you also have Gunther, who hasn't been around for a while, who's taken the belt from him in the past. So you have those two people that are already in storyline wise can work their way in as challengers for him for the next couple of months until you get back a healthy Seth Rollins or whatever your original plan was. You could buy 2 to 4 to maybe even 6 months if you write it right. So to me, Jey Uso gives you a little bit more credibility, and it's time for him to turn heel and take all the yeets to the no yeets and whatever you want to do it. And I think it'll make sense for him to go to a whole other level.
I dig that and I respect it. Kilt, same question to you. Who do you think needs this win more at Saturday night's main event, Punk or Jay, and why?
Honestly, I think okay. So I'm of multiple mentalities of this. If Jay wins, they kind of need to flesh out what the hell's going on in his brain. At least that storyline. And if he loses, they still need to do that because they've just been very ambiguous with his storyline right now. With Punk, honestly, I have no idea if like he's done so much. Like, yeah, honestly, I don't know what when he's thinking of retirement. Or at least he hasn't mentioned anything about it. It's not a full XYZ situation with it. It's very convoluted to me because honestly, I don't see who wins. I don't see who benefits truly. Like, I know that if I almost said Mikey, if Jay wins, he goes back to getting a title, and he goes back to being top dog or main event Jay, and he kind of now he's got to figure his own brain out and get himself out of this thing, and then deal with his brother. If CM Punk when CM Punk gets to reign for a while until either he retires or they decide to write him off. And then Jimmy and Jay can have a feud on their own without titles having to be a thing. It's a win-win, I think, for the fans right now. It's confusing as shit, but it's still a win-win because you got to get Punk with a title or you get Jay with the title, but you still get a feud out of it.
Very, very fair. So I am going to lean onto the side of I think Jay needs this more than Punk because, again, I feel like you still can have a couple things Punk can do in the meantime. But ultimately, I still think that the Seth versus Punk thing needs to be resolved, so to speak. I'm interested in seeing because hopefully it doesn't happen, but we'll see if it does. Because with Breaker and Reed in the background, because they were banned, they didn't get to participate in this match. I was like, oh, I smell shenanigans coming down the line. But I'm like, no, you have to have a champion. You have to have a champion at the end of Saturday night's main event, in my opinion. Because I'm like, what are you gonna do? You gonna drag it out to Survivor Series, or what are we doing? So I ultimately think Jay needs it. I think you can have him do a secondary reign for the meantime. Him and Jimmy can figure something out. Punk winning would also be fine with me. But I think Jay right now needs it more because leading into this unfortunate incident, Jay and Jimmy have kind of been slowly getting at odds with each other. Roman being in here also has kind of convoluted the plot a little bit, which is weird. But it is what it is at this point. So we're not going to see Roman until probably closer to Survivor Series anyway, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I think Jay needs this. And that takes care of Raw. So I think WWE this week, has been more of a brighter spot because I'm going to be completely honest. I've kind of been brutal to the Fed over the last couple of weeks, given the fact I was like, I'm bored, you guys. I was like, it's not bad. It's just not good either.
Yeah, it's been boring.
It's been okay. But I will say, I think this is a step in the right direction, and I'm hoping they continue this, not because I'm just also going to be at Survivor Series live and in person, but I want to have fun. And I feel that Raw and SmackDown are slowly starting to make some changes and some shifts. And then, of course, you know, I'm not saying we need a complete reset. And I know people get tired of me saying this, but I need Raw and SmackDown's creative team or whoever is in charge. I need them to look at what's going on in NXT. I was like, because I was like, even again, they just throw things at the wall and whatever works. If it doesn't, then we'll just do it for like 2-3 weeks and then we'll move on. But you get a rotation of different people. That's what I'm saying. Raven roster, in my opinion, you should book it like a rotation of A and B. So you have Group A appear on 1 week while Group B cuts promos. Then next week you get Group B talent on the card. A does the same thing and you just rotate leading into a pay-per-view. Just get more people on the card, because I think that's been my issue with Raw and SmackDown. It's the same like 5-6 characters, and then I'm like, you have like 20 people on this roster. You mean to tell me we can't do anything, even if it's backstage stuff with everybody on this main roster? What are we doing? But you literally have so many things you can do. And I know people see it as a demotion, but I was like, send people over for like 1 or 2 weeks for NXT. Send people to Evolve. Shoot. Just bring up some of the NXT kids like we did with Javon, and you know, for Evolve Super Sean Legacy, like just have them showcase the talent, be like, y'all look at these guys, follow them. You'd be like, that's crazy. But you know what, I enjoyed Raw and SmackDown this week, so that is going to be it for us for Dual Dynasty this week. Nick, I appreciate you being here. I have missed you being on the show.
Miss you. You know, the door's always open both ways. You guys want to ever come on, Gilt, you're always welcome. Mikey, you know, we love having you. Bringing the sex appeal to our show with your tank tops.
Also, yeah, and that's the other thing too. People are like, who is this? Every time we've done a review over the last couple of weeks, I've had people reach out. They're like, what is Nick talking about this tank tops? And then especially our new co-host, Benny, I was like, well, okay. So I gave him the whole backstory of everything, and it was fun. So I was like, yes, it is the middle of November, but it is still like 92 degrees where I live in this desert. So I was just like, until it officially becomes cool, I am rocking this tank top because I generate a lot of body heat. And so, yeah, we're not going to be sweating.
Well, Mikey, there's no hate on it. It's actually all just because of the fact that I wear shorts all year round, and I live in New Jersey in the Northeast, and I still wear it. Yeah, and shorts are the tank top of the lower half. So
I love it. No.
So much appreciated, but always a pleasure hanging out with you guys.
Of course. And of course, we have a very light week, surprisingly, but it is also going to be some good stuff. Of course, Tuesday, we got AEW. Wednesday, we're going to be talking about Halloween Havoc for NXT, which I was very pleased with the show, and I had such a blast watching it. And with the announcement of Gold Rush, which is the 2-week special event where championships will be on the line. But this year it's going to be crazy because it is going to be an amalgamation, because it's going to be a 4-promotion 2-week extravaganza, because it is NXT, AAA, TNA, and Evolve all having some sort of crossover, which is going to be nuts because there's going to be so many people on this show, which is crazy. And then, of course, we got CMLL. We got, WWE next Sunday. And Thursday is pay-per-view review time because, we will be doing Mystery Wrestling review. And then I will also be doing the Progress review for Jumping the Line, which I'm going to watch after this. But that's going to be it for us here. Thank you so much to Nick for joining us, and to all of you people watching us. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back, for a plethora of things this week. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay iconic, and more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. We will catch you this week for all our reviews, but until then, sayonara, adios, and until next time, peace.